Kyle Petty calls out Ryan Blaney, and NASCAR fans ain't happy about it. Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the episode of Inside the Lines. My name is Jet. Hope you're having a great day. I want to get this video out earlier, but midterms and exams are killing me. So yeah, I hate that. I hate those so much. But anyways, we have a big talking point around the NASCAR community, and it involves Ryan Blaney and Kyle Petty. Now you're probably wondering,
what the f has Kyle Petty got to do with this?
Well, a lot actually. Kyle Petty on the NASCAR and NBC podcast with Nate Ryan said this about Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney, and you know, for me, and I'm gonna be honest, man, Ryan Blaney is the new Kasey Kahne, potential unfulfilled. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody wants to talk about what he can do, but he never does anything. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, he just never gets past that hump. As I look at it, and Cindric, he brings a lot to the table, but he's really not showed up since Daytona last year, you know, in a lot of ways. And he's got to get in the mix. So that's a Ford team that I'm worried about.
Now that blew up NASCAR Twitter. A lot of people were calling out Kyle Petty, saying that he was wrong, that this statement is just stupid. It's a stupid take, horrible take. Even some drivers like Scott McLaughlin said this is a horrible take. But there were also some drivers that were, or some people I should say, that were agreeing with Petty. And I, for one, agree with what Kyle Petty is saying. Now, before we dive into it, I just want to say that Ryan Blaney, I think, is an incredible racing driver and still has a lot of potential, like what Kyle Petty said. However, that potential could go unfulfilled. Now, he brings up Kasey Kahne, and by the way, Kasey Kahne, to compare Ryan Blaney to Kasey Kahne is not a knock. Kasey Kahne was a really good race car driver and had a pretty good career. 20-something wins, won 6 races in 2006, won the Coke 600. I mean, he had a really good career. But when you compare the two in their first 7 seasons in the NASCAR Cup Series, it's quite similar. When we take a look at wins, Kasey Kahne beats off Ryan Blaney with 11 wins, thanks in part to that 6-win season back in 2006. However, Ryan Blaney is more consistent, more top 5s, and way more top 10s than Kasey Kahne. Both are about even on the lap sled, just about 100 more going to Ryan Blaney, and both have about the same average points finish, but the advantage does go to Ryan Blaney. However, the average finish, on the other hand, goes to Kasey Kahne, 11.9 to a 14.8. Now, Ryan Blaney does have a better points finish than Kasey Kahne. Blaney's was 7th, while Kasey Kahne's was 8th. However, with the playoffs, and it kind of makes things a bit wonky, but they generally have about the same career bring up the first 7 seasons. Some advantages go to Ryan, some go to Kasey. So I don't think it's a bad shout to compare Ryan Blaney to Kasey Kahne. And again, it's not a knock, but I can definitely understand what Kyle Petty means by potential unfulfilled. When Kasey Kahne came onto the scene in 2004, remember all of those second place finishes he got? Second place to Matt Kenseth at Rockingham, second place to Elliott Sadler at Texas. Like there was like 3 or 4 more times he finished in second place. Everybody knew that Kasey Kahne was going to be a guy to watch out for the future. And then that 6-win season in 2006, even though he did not do well in the playoffs. In fact, he finished 8th after a horrible stretch in what was then the chase. Still, after 2006, there were a lot of fans that were looking at Kasey Kahne and say, hey, that guy's going to be a future Cup champion. Now, granted, there is a bit of a difference in the career paths that Kasey Kahne chose and what Ryan Blaney is currently under. Blaney is currently in a long-term contract with Penske. With Kasey Kahne, on the other hand, after the recession, Everham merged with Gillette and then merged with Petty Motorsports, and then he was on loan with Red Bull Racing. There's a lot of things that changed course in Kasey Kahne's career. So there were 2 or 3 years where Kahne wasn't in really the best equipment in a sense. Granted, this was later on. Still, it's something we need to consider. Ryan Blaney, on the other hand, has always been under the Penske banner. And when you look at the differences in also their teammates, Kasey Kahne was always the guy at Everham Motorsports. Yes, Mayfield and Ray Everham had their little issues, but still, Kasey Kahne was the guy. But you look at Ryan Blaney at Penske, you look at who the top dog is. Ever since he joined Penske, he was always that 3rd guy. You know, you had Brad Keselowski, a former Cup champion. Ever since Blaney's been driving at Penske, Logano won 2 Cup championships. And he has been the guy to be, or one of the top dogs to be in the Cup Series. He also won a 500 back in 2015. But Blaney has always been the guy that is there. And I think Kyle Petty explains it really well when he says, like, he's there, he's got potential, he's always there, but just can't get over that one hump. And I see that with Blaney. At Daytona 500, twice he was in position to win in 2020 and last year. Couldn't get the job done. Always we see Ryan Blaney in contention, in the mix, that is there to either win a big race or advance to the next round, to advance to the championship 4, but just can't pull it off. And that separates the good from the great drivers, is that in intense moments and high pressure situations, you're there to capitalize. Blaney, on the other hand, he hasn't shown at least right now, and he's still very young. He's still very young and still has a lot of time left in his career. He's only 29 years old, so he still has a long ways to go. At this moment, Blaney hasn't been able to get over that hump to become a really great driver. Yeah, when you sit back and compare these two, there's a lot of parallels between them. Not only for the teams they drive for, they drove for really good teams. They both show a lot of talent. They also had a lot of hype around them. Again, after 2006, again, like I said, a lot of people looking at Kasey Kahne as, hey, this is a guy to beat. And when Kasey Kahne joined Hendrick Motorsports in 2012, a lot of people looked at Kasey as like, oh, hey, him and Hendrick, that could be trouble for the rest of the field. When I go back to 2017 and when Ryan Blaney drove an unbelievable race to beat Kyle Busch head-to-head at Pocono in a Wood Brothers car, even though I think at that time it was affiliated by Penske. I could be wrong about that, but still, to go to victory lane with the Wood Brothers, that's not a Daytona or a Talladega. A lot of people, I guarantee you, were, wow, this Ryan Blaney kid is something. And ever since he came to the Cup Series, he has shown those flashes of potential, of championship potential, but has just never been able to capitalize on it. And so that's why I don't think what Kyle Petty said was wrong. But what I do have an issue with is not with Kyle Petty, but the reaction from Kyle Petty. Because I feel like we're now living in a society when on social media, you cannot have an opinion unless you've had a better record than that driver. A lot of fans I saw were bringing up Kyle Petty stats. I think he only won 8 times in 700 some odd starts, which that's completely irrelevant. You should have an opinion on a driver or on something and not be, you know, one of the best of all time. If that's the case, if we're judging by saying that, hey, you can only have an opinion if you're better than that driver, then I should not be able to have a channel on this platform. Stephen A shouldn't even be on TV then if we're going by that logic. You can have an opinion on somebody even if you're not as successful as that guy. By the way, yes, Petty did have that 1 or 2 great years with Felix Sabates, but look at the cars that he drove outside of that. I mean, he kept on racing in 2001 because of Adam, because of his son's passing. He continued to drive for another 6-7 years. He originally was going to retire, I believe, before at the end of 2000, around that area, at least race part-time, but continued to keep driving even with a heavy heart. So I don't know, that hit me the wrong way, that people are going after Kyle Petty's record and looking and say, well, look, what have you done? You haven't done anything, you've done this and that. That's all completely irrelevant. When we're talking about the situation, we're talking about his comments, not who said it, but just the comments. Ryan Blaney is the new Kasey Kahne, potential unfilled. You look at the career paths, you look at the hype that was generated from the fan base. Between the two, it is, in my opinion, again, it's a good shout. It is a really good comparison, I think. Again, this is not a knock. It's not a knock saying that Ryan Blaney is a new Kasey Kahne. I think it's a good comparison because Kasey Kahne was a really good race car driver. Ryan Blaney is a really good race car driver. Blaney still has a lot of potential. He still has a lot of years left in him. So I think if he can fix that, if he can be able to get over that hump, he can be a championship contender year in and year out. And I saw a couple people on social media like Black Flags Matter and so on, a few others say maybe not, let's say Kasey Kahne, but more of a Ricky Rudd. Again, not a bad shout. Ricky Rudd is a damn good race car driver, but again, represents the same qualities as Blaney. Very consistent, showed a lot of talent, showed a lot of potential, was always in the hunt, but just could never capitalize. So yeah, I think the situation with Kyle Petty and a statement on Kahne and Blaney, I think it's a really good comparison. You know, there are some things you could maybe argue, but I think overall it's a pretty good comparison. But of course, when it comes to Twitter, taken out of context, it blows up. So yeah, again, I don't think it's a bad shout. But with Blaney, again, it's like he's just missing that one thing, just one more. It's like he is 1 or 2 steps away, or like he has the prize within his hands. It's within grasp, but he just can't get that. But when he does get over that hump, and he does get that 1 or 2 more % that he needs to be a championship contending race car driver, Blaney is going to be a force to be reckoned with. We've seen flashes of success. We've seen flashes of championship potential. Now what has to happen is that it has to be on a consistent basis. And I'm not talking about consistent basis running in the top 10. I'm talking about consistent upfront having a shot at winning races. And I think Blaney has the potential to do that, but is going to take that 1 or 2 more extra steps in order for that to happen. But those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts from this story? Do you agree with Kyle Petty? Do you not? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, my name is Jet from MDK. Thanks for watching.